Happy Wednesday, folks. In today's Lions video, we got some news and rumors to cover, some good news and some bad news. So we're going to go over that. Dan Campbell speaks to the media in regards to multiple players, including Jared Goff. We're going to get into that, as well as what can the Lions do to really get the maximized amount of cap space for 2026. We need to get a lot of free agents in this team. We need to re-sign players. The Lions got a lot of work to do this offseason. That's what we're talking about. Off-season, off-season, off-season. But before we get into today's video, have a happy new year. It's New Year's Eve. Make sure you guys are having an amazing New Year's Eve and tomorrow. Hopefully you're not too hungover. Let's get into today's Lions news. Let's start with some interesting news, and it's not good. It's bad news. Why is that? Because a player who played for the Detroit Lions the last couple of weeks as a starter has decided to sign with the Cleveland Browns. Kingsley Eguavoen. He is G-O-N-E. After starting the first two games of his career in back-to-back weeks, with everything on the line, Kingsley Eguavoen is heading to Cleveland. Woo! We cannot catch a break at that center position this year, folks. We cannot catch a break. Multiple injuries. Frank Ragnow retires. Tristan Colin, Graham Glasgow blow, and they are our centers right now. But have no fear, folks. We only got one game left. And make no mistake about it, we're going to have a completely new offensive line. We're going to have a new center. We're going to have multiple new centers, backups including, and a better offensive line. Because I can tell you right now that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are focusing on one thing and one thing only: getting more competitive, bringing grit to the Lions' defense and offensive lines. They know what the problem is. The Lions going to get it fixed. Why I'm not worrying about Cleveland poaching Kingsley Eguavoen is because he wasn't good anyways. We got one game left. Who gives a darn, right? So, question for you: how important is it for the Lions to get the center position correct this offseason? 1, if you think it's not that big of a deal. 10, if you think it's a massive deal. Dan Campbell spoke to the media about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He says, I think that we are sitting there borderline and it could get hard, or we think we're sitting there ourselves up for a long-term risk. We're going to be playing on Sunday. Then no, it's not worth it. But if the stuff doesn't feel good and it's bumps and bruises, then no, it's like the next game up. I concur. If it's bumps and bruises, of course you should play. Fans are paying for the game. You got to get better. But you do have to look for the long term and for 2026. And the Lions are competing for nothing this year except for a draft pick and not having more players injured. If Amon-Ra St. Brown is dinged up, don't play him. Don't play St. Brown if he's dinged up. We don't want players who are injured. We don't need that anymore. We need to focus on next year primarily. We can still focus a little bit of, this year for this game, because I know Dan Campbell's going to do that. But let's keep it a buck, folks. Brian Branch gets injured at the end of this season, and it's going to affect us for next year. I don't want St. Brown or any other player who has got some sort of injury to be forced to play on the field and then get injured and knowing our luck, would be injured for the rest of the next year, right? Some sort of big injury, and we don't want that. I get both ideas, I get both sides, but at the same time, I do think it's important to think about next year as well. And if St. Brown is questionable, if there is anybody that is questionable in the game on Sunday versus the Chicago Bears, the Detroit Lions should rest those players. We have the ability on Sunday to play some players that need some reps. Why don't we get more to Isaac Tesla? Give some reps to Ahmed Hassanin, right? Get some players who need those reps more, even though it's just one game left. Give them an opportunity to play. That's important, right? This season is a lost cause. Let's get for next season to be good to go. And I think that would be a smart idea. Now, Dan Campbell also spoke to the media about Jared Goff, and he was extremely firm in what he said. A lot of rumors have been talking about should the Lions trade away Jared Goff, and the answer is going to be no. Dan Campbell spoke to the media. This is what he said. He says, Jared Goff is a stud. He's an absolute stud, Campbell said. We're fortunate to have him as a quarterback. He's a winning quarterback in this league. He played at a very high level all season long. Played even better when he played the year before, and he's continued to play better. We're thankful to have him. I'm thankful to have him. He's an absolute stud. He's a pro. He's going nowhere. Nowhere. He's staying in Detroit. Now, I know a lot of people was like, man, we need to get another quarterback, but the reason he's staying in Detroit, this is the reason why. 4,233 yards. That's third best in the NFL this year. 33 touchdowns, second best in the NFL this year. 7 interceptions, tied for 13, and a 57.2 QBR, 17th best in the NFL. So you've been hearing on radio shows, you've been hearing from YouTubers, I'm sure you've read articles, commentary. He's not going anywhere, guys. I'm going to kill this rumor right now. Because this rumor, he's going to be back. He's going to be the Lions quarterback for 2026. Now, if you're a person who wants a different quarterback, look, you'd be a guy who talk about drafting one, but they're not going to trade him. It's not happening. Jared Goff is the Lions quarterback in this up-and-coming season and the foreseeable future. That is a fact because we paid him buku money, and we're going to get into the cap ramifications. Before we do that, though, should the Lions restructure Jared Goff's contract? Why for yes and for no? Now, Mike Payton, he came up with a great article from A to Z Sports. Check it out. He went through all of the details that the Lions would need to do to save an estimated cap space of $118 million in 2026. That is a boatload. But for this to occur, these things must happen. Restructure Jared Goff's contract. That is going to occur. He's going to get a major restructure. Right now he's at $69 million. That's going to get definitely dropped down. He talks about Taylor Decker's retirement. Now, if Taylor Decker does retire, that's going to save the Lions some money for sure. We don't want him to retire in the sense that we'd have to do that, but it's going to save the Lions money. Graham Glasgow is going to retire as well, or he's not coming back. That's going to save some Lions money. Amon-Ra St. Brown restructure. That's something we have to think about. Do you want to really restructure? Because the more restructures you do, eventually it does bite up with you. But that can occur. And rolling over the cap, in which the Lions have a lot of cap to roll over. So this is the situation for Brad Holmes right now, right? Is what has he got to do to get this roster to compete in 2026? He needs a lot of work to do. He needs to get to work on that cap. He needs to identify the players that he wants to re-sign this offseason, like Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell. He needs to bring players that he needs to be back on a respectable contract because the Lions don't have the money. We don't have the type of money that you would want to have to go to free agency to get players who would you like to get, right? There's a lot of players in the free agent market. Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Phillips, Arden Key. I mean, the list goes down. I've already talked about it. So the Lions can do some restructures, and I think they will. I don't necessarily believe they need to go crazy to free up $118 million in cap space. I think if some of these things happen, you re-sign some of your guys, right? Sam Laporta, too. If Taylor Decker retires, Graham Glasgow, he's going to retire. Those are more options you can do, not just for picking up free agents this year, not just, messing with Jared Goff's contract to allow this for Brad Holmes to do what he's doing, but it allows for all of the moves that needs to be made for the next couple years to keep this team respectable, but not destroy the cap completely, right? You don't want to freaking decimate the cap space because there's a guy in free agency I'd like to get. That's Tyler Linderbaum. And if the Lions free up some cap space, we can get it. So, question for you, how important it is for you of the center position, 1 through 10? I think it's extremely important. I think the Lions need to get a guy. I'd love to do it to fix this offensive line. I really do. And the Lions can get it done. The offensive line, this is how bad it is. Well, we were ranked 1 or 2 last year. We're ranked 11 3 days ago with interior offensive line grade of 76.2. The best offensive lineman was offensive lineman Penei Sewell at a 92.7 grade, third overall, second in the position. Worst lineman that they had on here was Taylor Decker at a 73, 118th overall, 45th in the position. So Taylor Decker had some issues. So if he does retire, yeah, it stinks. But the Lions then have an opportunity to go into the draft. Who I like to get, and depending what happens, especially the Lions could pick, 12 or 13 if everything falls right this weekend. You can get a tackle like a Proctor, and you put him on that left side for the next 12 years, and you fix the offensive line problem. And I think that fixed the center problem, right? That fixed a lot. You pick up a center in the draft, or you pick up a center in free agency like a Tyler Linderbaum, go into the draft, pick up a tackle. This offensive line is looking much better. And we're not in a situation where we're worried about Kingsley Aguakin, right? We're worried about Kingsley Aguakin instead of worrying about a Happy New Year's and worrying about the playoffs. So that's the situation that we're going into right now. I think the Lions should do some restructures. Like Jared Goff, I don't know about just doing everyone, but they definitely should because we need to compete in 2026. Give me your thoughts. With that said, folks, adios.